Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Antigua and Barbuda's government to discuss firm date for reopening the economy. This story takes the lead in our 1125th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 2nd June 2021. Details after this break.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. If only Antigua and Barbuda could achieve herd immunity, total reopening of the economy would be achieved for all citizens. So says Prime Minister Gaston Brown as his government mulls a date for opening up. More in this ABS News item with Jamie J. Roger.
A population achieves herd immunity to a disease when most people are immune to it. It means the disease is less likely to spread from person to person, so those not immune are at reduced risk for illness. A country can achieve herd immunity through mass vaccination or the disease's natural progression to the population. But natural disease progression will cause illness and death as people become infected. The government of Antigua and Barbuda wants at least 70% of its population to take a COVID-19 vaccine to achieve herd immunity from the disease.
Let's us all, use every effort to convince those around us who are not vaccinated to do so, and to do so as soon as possible.
In addition to the vaccination program, the government maintains several other public health measures to suppress the virus that causes COVID-19. These include a curfew and a requirement for face masks in public. Speaking Saturday on his weekly radio program, Prime Minister Gaston Brown says these measures can't remain in place forever.
At some point, we will have to open up the country's economy. We'll have to do away with all of the regulations, the curfews, and other things that we have in place. We will have to fully open up the country at some point.
If enough people aren't immune when the country reopens, herd immunity through natural disease progression could occur, spelling disaster for many.
Now, at that time, I don't know anyone can fault the government, because on a weekly basis for several months, we've been asking people to go there, on a daily basis for that matter, to go there and to get vaccinated.
Over the next few weeks, the Prime Minister says the government will discuss setting what he calls a firm date to reopen the country fully. Jamie J. O'Shea, ABS News.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health will be adding 2 temporary COVID-19 vaccination centers as of tomorrow. These will be the St. Mary's Church Hall, otherwise known as the Tyrrell's Catholic Church Hall, and the Jennings Primary School Auditorium.
However, persons who desire
will fall on Liat employees in St. Lucia receive their full terminal benefits. The cash-strapped air carrier Liat owes hefty payments, severance and vacation pay to staff. However, the National Workers' Union says securing these benefits remain an uphill battle. Collage Alfred of HTS News Force reports.
And the union has made it abundantly clear to the authorities that Liat 1974 employees in St. Lucia request and demand 100% of their terminal benefits.
A liquidated Liat now struggles to lift off with terminal payments owed to former employees. However, the loyal staff alongside their union in St. Lucia, the National Workers' Union, remains relentless in advocating for what is rightfully owed to them.
Terminal benefits will include severance pay, vacation pay, and other emoluments that are owed to the employees. As most persons would know, the company is currently in administration. There has been a court-appointed administrator in the person of Mr. Cleveland Seaforth. And the whole question of settling these redundancy payments and other terminal benefits is something that is very pressing for us, and we want to ensure that some resolution not just at the regional level, but even the local level, is arrived at.
The push for 100% terminal benefits by the employees, according to General Secretary of the National Workers' Union, Johan Haywood, comes after consultation with former LIAT employees, a regional consultative mechanism of trade unions, and the administrator for LIAT, Mr. Cleveland Seaforth.
We're hoping we submitted some correspondence to the administrator up to last week. And we're waiting to see what comes out of this particular administration process to ensure that the LIAT 1974 employees in St. Lucia get what they are legally entitled to.
The financial plight of the air carrier has been well documented. However, the $29 million payout owed to its former employees remains the sticking point for the union in St. Lucia, despite other Caribbean islands taking alternative routes.
There are discussions going on. I think the administrator indicated that he wanted the regional governments to get involved. So we have to push and see what comes out of that particular process. Bearing in mind that the employees have a legal entitlement in terms of a claim for their terminal benefits. They were made redundant based on our local legislation sometime in late or mid-2020, and they have a legitimate and legal claim. So whatever discussions and resolutions that have been sought at the regional level through administration or what have you, it is important that we ensure that as best as possible these people get their terminal benefits.
Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, in January 2021, made a special plea to all regional governments to pay severance to their nationals who were employed by LIAT. The National Workers' Union continues to monitor the situation that grounded the airline in 2020, landed its former employees in transit as they await their terminal benefits. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Retired Assistant Police Commissioner and Chairman of the Police Service Commission in Guyana, Paul Slow, on Monday broke his silence on the ongoing issue relating to the fraud charges against him. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana has the details.
During a press conference with his attorney, Selwyn Peters, Slow detailed the events which he said led to the allegations and subsequent charge against him. He believes the charges against him are politically motivated and related to his refusal to have the president influence promotions in the Guyana Police Force through the Police Service Commission.
The charge and the allegation are a diabolical plan by politicians and some dishonest, vindictive, and corrupt senior police officers of the Guyana Police Force to remove me and Mr. Conway from the Police Service Commission. The effort to remove us from the Service Commission was accelerated when we were written to by the Prime Minister to show cause why he should not advise the President that we should be removed from the Police Service Commission. We have both responded to the letter from the Prime Minister.
Mr. Slow said in September last year he met with President Irfan Ali, and at that meeting the president tried to persuade him that some members of the force, specifically Senior Superintendent Calvin Brutus and Faisal Karimbash, should be promoted to assistant commissioners. Slow said he informed the president that there is a process which must be followed before persons are promoted.
And it was clear at that meeting that the president wanted me to use my influence at the commission to have those persons promoted. I advised the president, apart from the process I mentioned before, that the commission has certain rules. One of those rules is that if a person has a pending disciplinary matter before the commission, the person is not eligible for promotion.
Both Brutus and Karimbash had pending disciplinary matters before the Police Service Commission. Slow detailed how he was contacted by someone he knows and was told that the Attorney General wants to meet with him but was afraid to reach out to him directly. He said he informed the person that he is prepared to meet with the Attorney General, but made it clear that he will not be taking or carrying out any illegal orders.
During the course of the meeting, Arafat, as he's referred to, told me that the purpose of the meeting was that the Attorney General, Mr. Nandalal, wanted to meet with me, but he was afraid to reach out to me directly because he thinks that his reaching out will be rebuffed. He then asked me if I would be willing to meet with Mr. Nandalal. I told him that in my capacity as chairman of the Police Service Commission, I will meet with anyone. However, I was firm and I told him that no one will get me to do anything illegal. No one will get me to compromise on ethics. And therefore, that was a prerequisite. That was to be told to whoever want to meet with me.
Mr. Slow explained that in December last year, the Police Service Commission met to consider promotions for officers after receiving recommendations from the police force. He said several ranks were recommended for promotions, and in compiling the shortlist, the PSC took into consideration that both Brutus and Karambach had outstanding disciplinary matters against them, and therefore they were not given the green light for promotions. He said after the president became aware that the two senior officers were not on the promotion list, the president called him directly, inquiring why his people were not on the promotion list.
And he wanted to know why his people, and I quote there, his people, Brutus and Karambach, were not on the short list. I went through the same thing of explaining to him about the disciplinary process, and he was very, very upset. He said that, look, people have these disciplinary matters pending. How long would they be pending? Why are they not completed so that people can be considered for promotion? And it was a rough conversation, I would describe it as. Raised voice.
Mr. Slow said he has no doubt that the charges and allegations against him and the other commissioner are to remove them from the commission and to replace them with a commission favorable to the government. And Attorney Selwyn Peters, who's representing Mr. Slow, said the president's intervention is unprecedented and amounts to an illegality.
But it just shows you the incestuous relationship that certainly reeks in the context of the matter before the Prime Minister now to adjudicate.
And in response to the Prime Minister's request for Slow and Conway to show reason why he, the Prime Minister, should not recommend their removal from the Police Service Commission, Slow and Conway, through their attorney, have dispatched a more than 500-page document to the Prime Minister. Attorney Selwyn Peters said even if the government decides to go ahead and begin a process to remove the two members of the Police Service Commission, it is a long process that could take months. The life of the current Police Service Commission expires in August.
A senior police officer was fatally shot in San Pedro in Belize. Details in this News 5 Belize report.
He was once the coastal executive officer of the Belize Police Department, stationed here at the San Pedro Police Station on Namburgos Key. But in the wee hours of today, Superintendent Henry Jamot was fatally shot to the head while socializing in front of a beach resort south of the town.
Mr. Jamot and a female were socializing on a pier somewhere in San Pedro. This was after 12:30 a.m. thereabout, which would be during curfew time, when one single gunshot was heard. And upon investigating, police found the female on a pier, and she had what appeared to be blood on her arms and on her clothing. And inside the waters, right near the pier, police recovered the lifeless body of Mr. Jamot with one apparent gunshot wound behind the right ear.
The news of Jamot's demise sent shockwaves across the island as well as within the police department. The superintendent of police was recently posted in Belize City and had asked for some time off to deal with personal issues.
Mr. Jamot had worked in various aspects of policing and was recently the officer commanding Salinasa Police Formation. And in May of this year, he was transferred to Belize City to take over command of Precinct 2. Mr. Jamot had some personal issues, and he had requested time off from Mr. Rosado to address those issues. I myself, I was not aware that he was out on San Pedro until I got the call last night that he had died.
An intense investigation is being carried out by the department as today. CIB Commander for the Eastern Division, Superintendent Alejandro Coe, was on the island. The sister of the deceased flew out to San Pedro today, anxiously awaiting answers. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.